I don't regret it. I actually really like wrestling as something that kind of, really takes you away into this like different world. You don't have to, you can think about bills and jobs and stuff like that, or you can, just like watch some wrestling for a little bit. So it's something I enjoy to do.
Right. Well, we're back at it with Friends in the Corner podcast again to talk about one of my personal favorite subjects that we don't get to cover too much on the show, but excited to be doing that today. WrestleMania 37 to be specific, and returning to the show for I think his third episode. Yes, third episode coming on here, Mr. Angelo Carriero of ESPN Radio Lexington. Angelo, how are you doing tonight, man?
What up, Dan? No, I am excited because said with WrestleMania, I started getting back into wrestling. WrestleMania 30 was the first time I had watched since I stopped as a kid, because I stopped around like midway to late way through Brock Lesnar's first run. Kind of like when Lesnar left, I kind of like hopped out of it, I believe, if my memory serves me correct. And one night my roommate had someone come over that was into wrestling, and they were like, hey, he was going to come upstairs and watch it in my room. And I was like, hey, do y'all mind coming downstairs and watch it? I haven't watched wrestling in forever. And that was the Daniel Bryan winning the championship at the end, great Bray Wyatt John's match that they had. So I was like, I forgot how much I loved this
until that day.
And it was like that day, I was like, I forgot how much I loved it. So every now and then I flip over to Raw, and I just happened to catch live Seth Rollins turning on the Shield. And I was like, all right, like I guess I'll stick around. And then I saw Bray. And ever since then, I've been just right back being like a weekly viewer. I've probably watched longer now than I did as a kid, thinking about it, which is crazy because I was so into it as a kid, Dan. Like I had all the wrestling figures, I had the wrestling ring, I had the belts, wow. I had, I watched all that. Like I was super into it when I was younger. So
who is it that got you into wrestling?
Yeah, it was really cool.
Who is it that got you into wrestling at the start? Was it Austin and Rock?
Oh, it was, well, I thought you were talking about person. Like it was like my mom's fiance at the time was the person that was like, hey, there's this thing called wrestling, I think you'll like it. And it was absolutely Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like to this day, like that's my like childhood, like it has like, oh, my hero was Michael Jordan, or it was Brett Favre or something like that. Like mine was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like that's who it was, like straight up.
Wow. Well, hey, that's where everybody starts. I got into wrestling around 2004, which is like a terrible time to get into pro wrestling, but that's when Austin was gone and
after
Rock
the
was
Attitude
gone.
Era,
Yeah, and I grew up with Eddie and Benoit and Randy Orton, all those guys starting to come in. So I just missed all that, and I've been following along. And I always tell people when I tell them, I started around 2004, 2005. They're like, that's when wrestling was terrible. I was like, I'm still here. So,
man, you got to see so you saw some of the stuff. Like, oh man, you got to see. I'd say the Ruthless Aggression era was good. It was kind of like after that when it was like Sheamus was winning championships and Alberto Del Rio like in there and doing that, and Triple H kept. I don't know. I never really watched during that time. It wasn't until those guys were kind of older and you had that new gen kind of influx. But hey, man, I don't regret it. I actually really like wrestling as something that kind of really takes you away into this like different world. You don't have to you can think about bills and jobs and stuff like that, or you can just like watch some wrestling for a little bit. So it's something I enjoy to do. I really do.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm excited that we finally get to dedicate an episode to WrestleMania. We're going to be talking about a few other things later this month. We'll be talking about the NFL draft. And after all, I have referred to you as the Mel Kiper of Lexington before. So I'm sure you're excited for that episode. But before we get to that, Angelo, it's been a while since you've been on. I think our last episode together was back in September or August. It was midway through to 2020. So tell my listeners what you've been up to since then.
Well, I think you are I just lost the term for it, but you're my bad luck omen, because like I think the last time we talked, I hadn't gotten this new job that ended up being really cool, and now that we've talked, that job just ended. So now again, when I come on your show, I'm jobless. So every time I come on the Friends in the Corner podcast, I'm jobless. So Dan, I think you either hit me at the best times or the worst of luck, but. But yeah, it seems like every time I come on, I'm needing some type of work. But you know what? I'm finally happy to have a little bit of time off. I've pretty much been going, 5:30 like all day, every day for about 8 months. I got a job working for this guy in Nicholasville that does like he gets contracted labor from SiriusXM, and he needed my help doing just like board operations. So like nothing too much, but I help do that, help produce some shows, but more or less just kind of sat back and made sure everything was working correctly. And I got to work on a national NBA radio show with Frank Isola, a former New York Knicks beat writer, and Brian
Yeah.
Scalabrine, someone they call the White Mamba. I mean, I worked on that show with a guy that's the current assistant GM of the Sacramento Kings. I've worked with former NBA players like Rick Mahorn and uh, uh, there's another one. Who am I forgetting? Anyways, just other people that work in the NBA business, and that was really fun. And then I got to work on a couple different music shows. I worked on a Stars, like the TV channel, like Stars Sirius XM show. So I had a
Dang.
bunch of different parts of the map, and I really got to meet like people who don't know me. I've lived in Central Kentucky my whole life, and I mean I've visited places, but never really been, you know, anywhere for long periods of time. And everybody that works at SiriusXM essentially is from New York City and works in New York City. So it was really cool to kind of see what New Yorkers are all about. That's kind of, like they're their own little world. And it was really cool to kind of see like what they think about things, how they perceive things, how they talk to each other and do all that. So that was really super. And I really liked everybody I worked with. And um, as you know, I do radio broadcasting, obviously, with ESPN 1392.5. I have my own Sunday morning show. I'm not sure if I was doing that the last time we talked, but I am now.
Hmm.
From 10 to 11 on Sunday mornings, I have my own show. This was my second year of doing play-by-play football broadcasts for our high school program, and my first year of doing play-by-play for our basketball program. So I've
Mhm.
got promotions up to play by play in both of those. Didn't get to do any Bengals work this year, with COVID and whatnot. But other than that, like as soon as I got off the podcast with you, my life went up, and as soon as I come back down, all of my work went away. All right, so Dan, all right, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what kind of spell you put on me, but I'd like you to break it, please.
I'm trying, man. I think the world is just destined for us not to be friends. I don't know what it is. So
We do need to meet up and have a bourbon. I actually have a place I want to go to with you. I'll talk about it off the show because no free advertising unless you want to pay my man of the Friends in the Corner podcast.
please,
So,
please.
but when
Goodness.
we get off here, I'll discuss something I think we'd have a fun time doing. Okay.
Hell yeah. All right, brother. Well, hey, I'm excited for us to finally nerd out about wrestling. It's something that I'm very passionate. It's something I know you're very passionate about. I've heard you talk about it on your show. You've heard it talk about mine. We've talked about it a little bit on my show before, but not dedicated the time to it. So today we're going to be dedicating all the time we want to pro wrestling, and specifically with WrestleMania. But I do want to transition a little bit here to talk about some other competition that's going on with WWE right now in the form of AEW. And the last year has been very challenging for a lot of people, and you and I included personally, and even in the wrestling world, it's been that way. But two names that have kind of stood out as far as wrestling goes have been the WWE and AEW,
Mm-hmm.
as far as making waves in the wrestling industry. And AEW has continued their show over the last year. They've been holding it in one specific location for the most part, going up against WWE. And, I've heard you talk a little bit about AEW on my show before, but I kind of want to get your thoughts about how you, now that it's been a little bit of time here, what's your thoughts about AEW as a competitor to WWE? How you feel about the shows they've been producing with the pandemic, and, just where you're at with the whole wrestling war right now, I guess is a nice way to say it.
I think that AEW is fun to have around. I think that AEW is good to have as a contrast to WWE. I think the thing that I like about AEW, it's the same thing that kind of I don't like about AEW at the same time, is that they're very inside the wrestling. Like they're very to fans like you and I that like wrestling a lot and know a lot about the wrestlers and about like what's going on, quote unquote, behind the scenes. They they kind of bring everything to light. They are very meta. They know what wrestling fans know. Like AEW is like the hardcore wrestling fan show because they drop all the lingo and the behind the scenes that like and that's a shoot like stuff like that like the language and it's definitely the hardcore wrestling fans show and they put on good matches. They try their best to bring in top stars, that are available and they're doing what they can. I think one thing that makes it tough for them at the moment, at least in the terms of how do I view AEW compared to WWE, is simply their shows on Wednesdays against NXT, Raw and SmackDown, starting in the week. Those shows seem more important. If Dynamite played at the same as Raw or Dynamite at the same time as SmackDown, I would not only see AEW Dynamite more, I would I would compare it to those two brands as WWE's top competition instead of just WWE's developmental brand, even though they want to make NXT a third brand. Ever it's not, and I think WWE almost liked it that it wasn't on Wednesdays because it's like, yeah, you're competing with our leagues, bro. Like you think you all can do Raw and down, so I think they have a lot of good going for them. I think they have interesting players. I like it when they're stars or guys that you can't get to be like the less of Christian, more of Kenny Omega type of thing. I
Mhm.
do I do like that aspect. I like that they have their own stars and you because if you want to see them, you got to go to AEW and they've got some good guys. But uh, I'm glad AEW is around. But when it comes to I guess feeling as big as Raw and SmackDown as that second United States promotion, it's just not quite there with me yet. But they're still young. WWE has like history and lineage and years of footage to rely back on some of the greatest moments in wrestling history that made us fans. AEW has like 2.5 years of that.
Right.
So what are they supposed to do? No, not even 2.5 years. They have like under 2 years now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure AEW debuted in October of 20. I mean, they have not been around that long at all.
But have you gotten your subscription to Peacock yet?
Yeah, I got it when they were offering 4 months for $10. So I've got it until July for
Okay.
$10, like
Yeah.
period. So yeah, I got
So you have Peacock. You're also catching up on Parks and Rec in The Office, just kind of getting as much as you can for the time being.
I yeah. Let's just say that WWE Peacock made a good decision because I'm gonna have Peacock for the next 5 years because of the network. So that was a good business deal on Peacock's end for sure.
All right, Angelo, let's start diving into WrestleMania 37 here, and let's start talking about these matches that we have coming up here.
You.
So I printed off from Wikipedia the list of matches. These are not in order of where the matches are going to be. These are strictly off of at the time of recording how they are listed on Wikipedia. So the first thing we do know is that there's going to be an Andre the Giant Battle Royal. They haven't really named who's going to be in it, but
Yes, they have. They have named it. Yeah, I saw the list. Like Jay Uso's going to be in it. I think a lot of the SmackDown participants are in the match, and I'll actually look that up at the moment for you. But can you believe? Like, here's something that bothered me. Like, how did they get every championship on WrestleMania except the tag team championships? Like the SmackDown Tag Team Championships are being defended on SmackDown, which they are labeling a SmackDown WrestleMania. And like, so what the hell? You can't put the Street Profits and who's Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio and Ziggler and Rude and Otis and like, you can't put the Street Profits on WrestleMania. What is wrong with you?
For real though. Actually, I completely forgot till you brought that up. That's the thing, is like, that's a special SmackDown match. It's not a WWE match. Which I'm like, what the hell? I'd rather watch
WrestleMania match.
I'd rather watch that than New Day. Actually, no, we'll get into that. But
yeah, so it's Garza, Alexander, Gulak, Elias, Eric from, I guess, the Viking Raiders, Grand Metalik, Humberto Carrillo, Jackson Riker, Jey Uso. Woof, this is a rough list. Kalisto, King Corbin, Lince Dorado, Mace, Murphy, Mustafa Ali, Ricochet, Shelton Benjamin, Shinsuke Nakamura, Slapjack, T-Bar, and Tucker.
So of that list of B talent, who's my pick?
Who's your pick?
Probably Nakamura.
I'm going to go with Kentucky's own Ricochet. I'm going to go with Ricochet. They had that moment with McIntyre backstage. I feel like he's been getting a little heat lately, but we'll see. I'm going to go with Ricochet, but I think Nakamura is just as good of a bet. But, man, how about that? Maybe Jey Uso wins. That would be funny.
I would like to root for Ricochet, being a Kentucky boy, Graves County High School graduate. But
there you go.
And then getting into at least the main card of WrestleMania.
Wait, what about the SmackDown tag champions?
Oh, I forgot about that. I'm sorry. So yeah, what's your feeling?
Go ahead.
Are they competing at WrestleMania, or are they just competing at SmackDown?
No, this is it. They're not going to be WrestleMania.
Yeah. So as far as that goes,
that's bogus.
I know it is, and like they can't even be a pre-show match.
Pre-show, yeah.
Just let Dolph and Rude maintain and just move on with it. I don't really care about any of this.
No, you're kidding. Dude, I think the Street Profits are not only the best acts in WWE right now. I think Montez Ford has like rock level potential if they give him the ball and let him run.
Really?
I think Montez Ford is like the dude. But he is charismatic. He is a 5-star wrestler. He has the look. He has the confidence. He has the bravado. He has everything. I think if they gave Montez Ford, like if they break up the Street Profits and just let Ford go as a single star, he'll be one of the 5 biggest stars in WWE over the next decade. Really? That's my hot take. I really think that much of him.
Not to string back to the AEW, but I guess the tag team they get compared to a lot is Private Party. So what's your thoughts about Private Party versus Street Profits as far as different tag teams?
Private Party ain't even in the same league, baby. Private Party ain't even in the same league. Now, you can give me a little bit of the Acclaimed or something like that, but look, Private Party's a tag team. Private Party is a good duo. Like if they went to NXT, they would be in one of those classic like Revival DIY, like triple threat tag teams where you can throw in like either American Alpha or you can throw in the Razor and Akam, whatever those guys' name were, I forgot, the Dead Poet Society or whatever their name was, Authors of Pain, sorry, that's what it was. But no, man, like I think Montez Ford is a super duper ultra duper star. Like he is Shawn Michaels to Angelo Dawkins is Jannetty. Like that's how good I think he is.
Wow, that's very high.
I know that's high, but that's where I'm at.
Especially, and we'll talk about her later, but his wife gets more attention than he does right now.
And he has Bianca Belair. I mean, things are going well in the world of Montez Ford.
Okay, so you think you have the Street Profits winning?
Street Profits.
Yep. I've got Ziggler and Rude.
Okay. Is writing these down? Are you writing these down? We need to make sure we need a tracker.
Winner gets free beer from a year from the loser, I guess. I don't know.
A year? A week. I don't know. I have a job, Dan. You're Mr. Moneybanks now. You better give me a break.
So the first match I've got here is actually Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. And so what's your kind of thoughts about this match as we start going? I know you are in love with Bianca's husband. So what's your feelings about Bianca as a
I'm head over heels for her too. I think that when it comes to WWE, I want to say this and I don't mean this to disparage any wrestler before her in this, because it's WWE and how they make characters. and it might be Bianca's character, but I also feel like it's natural. She is so culturally African American. Like I truly think that she could connect to that side of an audience that WWE's, I don't know if they've ever really been able to connect like that before. Like she is so authentically herself on top of her being her character. I just think that Bianca is a very natural superstar, and they must see it too, to shotgun her to win the Royal Rumble and be in this match with Sasha. And I think she's going to win because they've let Sasha get all the jabs in, and Bianca's kind of, had to take it and wait till WrestleMania, wait for WrestleMania. I think Sasha's been um, really good lately. I probably hate Sasha less this year than I have every other year because I've never really liked her, but she makes for a good heel. And I don't know. I just think Bianca's a star herself. She has the look. She's a good wrestler. She has everything. She can talk. I'm going with Bianca securing the championship at WrestleMania.
I'm in the same boat. I feel like they've kind of built her up to be the next big women's star on their brand. I think she's got a good look, honestly. And this is something I've actually really liked is the long hair, her move where she takes it and she whips them with the,
Yeah.
honestly, that's pretty dope. Like that's something that she can do that not every other wrestler on the roster can do. The next match that's on my card that I have here is Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus Miz and John Morrison, a match that was recently changed from last night, from the night we're recording. So what's your thoughts on this match? Particularly, what's your thoughts on Bad Bunny competing in a WWE ring?
I love Bad Bunny. Like the way, dude, Bad Bunny has been so cool. He has been a part of it. I think he's played his character great, where he's like the cool rapper that like Damian Priest is his buddy, just kind of like showing him around. They gave him the mic and let him cut like a 7 or 8 minute promo on Raw this last Monday, and I thought he, like, for someone that's never done that, even he hasn't even built up to it on WWE. Like everybody talks for him, Damien talks for him, and then boom, 8 minute promo from Bad Bunny. I was like, holy shit! Like that, I can't believe they let him do that, and I can't believe he did well. And he was obviously he's the one of the greatest 24/7 champions of all time. Um, uh, I think Bad Bunny's been for a celebrity wrestler, goofy. Some of them are, I just love, like, being here. There are some forgettable ones like Stephen Amell, like in the whole Stardust like weird thing that they had going on there. I just think he's been awesome. I think he's been cool. He's played his character great. And this is a spoiler too. I've I remember I got into Ring of Honor a couple years ago because it would come on at like 1 in the morning on a Sunday, and like Punishment Martinez then, and I was like, that dude's awesome. He was like a mix between the three. It was mixed between Undertaker, Roman Reigns, and Baron Corbin. It was like really weird, his kind of like mix. And even though I thought his Damian Priest gimmick can be kind of hit and miss a lot, I've always been a fan of his. So I not only do I think I like both wrestlers in this, I know Miz has been doing good. No Morrison hasn't gotten a shine we all hoped he would when he came here. I'm taking Bunny and Priest in this one. Well, what do you think about Bunny? What do you think? What do you think about him?
So I want to be like, it's kind of weird. My feelings towards celebrity wrestlers may have changed over the last couple of years because celebrity wrestlers have been a little bit better recently than they have been. So like,
oh yeah,
I was thinking about this the other day. So since in the last couple of years, Ronda Rousey, Shaq, Pat McAfee, all these guys, they're like, and you come in and you're like, oh, what are these guys going to do? What can they do? And then they go out and they have like stellar matches. Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. McAfee had
Ronda Rousey was awesome.
Yeah, she was.
Ronda Rousey was awesome.
Yeah, and obviously,
I was just gonna say, people like just don't realize how good she was and how good her heel turn was when she turned heel. That year of Rousey, she fucking rocked from beginning to end. People don't respect it because she was a UFC fighter. Screw off. She was awesome. And you're right, McAfee was good. And Shaq was even good. He's like 45 years old. He was even awesome.
Yeah, he had a great match.
Yeah, he was really good.
Took a huge ass
Took a huge bump.
Yeah, and so my feelings the last couple of years have probably changed towards celebrity wrestlers because, well, like you said, I'm from a different era. I watched Kevin Federline and Snooki shit the bed, and so, and then like honest, even Stephen Amell a few years ago at All In, he had a pretty decent match.
He tried hard, hard for sure.
Yeah, not as good as the rest of them, but he still was good enough that maybe I'm a little more optimistic towards Bad Bunny than I've been previously in my life because celebrities.
And he's a big nerd for wrestling. Like the guy made a song called Booker T. Like, yes. I mean, it wasn't a song called The Rock. He didn't make a song called Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair Drip. He made a song called Booker T.
And so I'm picking, and I promise you, I'm not going to pick every pick you have, but I'm picking Bad Bunny and Damian Priest as well in this match.
All right. We're both keeping tabs of it. We've got stuff at stake now.
Next match is New Day, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods versus AJ and Omos. So we have not seen Omos compete at all. I know he's a former college basketball star. I don't remember. I guess he competed at USF. I guess he was on Orlando Antigua's team. I don't know that for sure though. But that's what I at least gathered. But fun fact for Kentucky fans. But yeah. This is a kind of an interesting match between New Day, who've have pretty much held the tag team titles for the last 10 years, and AJ, probably one of the best wrestlers in the world, and Omos, who we don't know anything about. So what's your thoughts on this match?
I think that a lot of people had a bad reaction when they beat the Hurt Business to take the tag team titles. I don't think they foresaw maybe what was coming forward, like the Bobby Lashley going independent, the New Day getting shot, because I believe they lost the tag titles, lost the rematch, and then AJ and us came out and were like, WrestleMania us, and it was like that was it. So I think New Day a lot of kind of bad heat for that, even though obviously it wasn't like up to them. It was all, this AJ Omos thing, and I'm excited to see Omos wrestle because I just, anybody that big, if you can turn them into something like you did with Braun or you did with somebody like that, I think there's potential there. Even if he's just a big dude, sometimes wrestling's fun to just have a big dude, especially one as big as him, because he'll always have like a role. And with the Big Show gone, I mean, he can kind of fill that role now. And I think I want to see who you pick first so I can steal your answer this time, because I think I know who's going to win it, but they have been building AJ and Omos not being on the same page for weeks. And Omos is like, I'm sick of shit. I just want to win. And I don't know if that'll end up hurting them and Omos is going to turn on AJ, or if they're in because Omos is just a beast. What do you think?
So the part of me that thinks like, and the way they're kind of building up, I think they want you to think like, oh, AJ and Omos are going to come together and beat the New Day, especially because they're the newer team. They want to build Omos up. I think that New Day is going to defend. And I think like it's going like what you mentioned. I think it's going to turn into a breakup between AJ and Omos, where AJ is going to put Omos over. That is kind of my feeling. I don't think now they could put the titles on them for a little bit, but I mean, I think the inevitability is that they're going to eventually do the breakup angle, which happens with tag teams. But I don't think it's going to be a WrestleMania. I think that they're going to lose, and then Omos and AJ are going to fight, and AJ is going to put Omos over.
I really loved where you were going with that until you said you didn't think it was going to happen at Mania, because I think that would be a perfect stage, because AJ Styles' healer face is someone that the audience loves. So for Omos to come in there and after the match just brutalize AJ after and stand in the middle of the ring with AJ's carcass below him like I'm the new super heel would bring a lot of heat and like a lot of positive like way that would bring AJ back to babyface, make, Omos like a super heel that can do whatever he wants. I think that would be pretty cool. I think that's more likely, but since you picked New Day, and before this I was leaning, now I don't think they're going to win, like just because you made a compelling case, but I'm still going to pick Omos because you can still hold on him, quote unquote, even though it's silver, and take it off him and do the same kind of turn later. Build it up more, make the audience a little more familiar with what's about to happen. So you're going New Day?
I'm going New Day.
Okay, I'm going to go AJ Styles and Omos. So
next match that we have on the card here is Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon in a steel cage match. As far as where, I do enjoy the product more than probably other people do in the industry. This Shane Braun buildup has just been weird and just not really that great for me, at least. I'll get your thoughts on it here in a minute, but like even this last episode, like the way they build it up is Shane thinks he's dumb and Shane thinks that Braun's an idiot. And then Braun comes out and he's like, everyone's thought against me. Everyone's thought been against me. It's like, dude, you're 6'8" and like 300 pounds. No one's thinking less of you than that. So the build-up's been weird, and the main thing, I've not been a big fan of it. I do think Braun's going over because Shane is Shane, and I don't think he has gone over in WrestleMania in a long time. So I'm going Braun over Shane, but let me get your thoughts on the build up for this match that has been going on.
Back in the early 2000s, you had great tag teams like the Hardy Boys, like the Dudley Boys, like Edge and Christian. Legendary tag teams that'll stand the time. My favorite tag team was a group called Too Cool, and they were white dudes that wore FUBU style, very 2000s hip hop garb, came out to a cool, funky song, danced, did the worm, and they liked rap music. And that just connected with me as a kid. Even though these other tag teams were better, even though they were better and had better stories, I liked Cool because I was a little kid that thought they were really cool. Okay. Bringing up cards, calling someone dumb, like Braun being like, this is everybody's been said about me my whole life. WWE still has programs that are made for kids. And there are probably some bigger kids that maybe aren't the top of their class that watch wrestling. And I've been called dumb my whole life. Or like they think kids at school are bullies and they look like Shane McMahon. And those kids look like Braun Strowman. Where that's why they put the report card up. Oh, my report card isn't very good. I don't like to be called dumb. I try hard. And Braun's out here representing those kids that feel that way, and Shane's the big bully, and Braun's going to get his comeuppance, and they can say, I beat the bully. That's where I think they're going with it. If they're not, then yeah, it sucks. But if you look at this like, hey, they still do advertise to kids. They still make wrestling for kids. This seems like one of those programs they do for the kid that maybe has a bully, and they want to see the kid beat the bully. And that's what I would say is the reason why they're doing this. Braun gets his comeuppance against his bully, and it's a happy ending to the story.
Moving on to the next match. This is the match that I think is going to steal the night, and I'm super pumped about it. And I think can't wait for this match to happen. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. I think Cesaro has been kind of built up to be kind of finally break away from like lower mid tier. I don't know if they're going to make him a main eventer, but I think like they'll make him enough competitor. Like he'll be main eventing a few pay-per-views this upcoming year after this match. I think that this is going to be a barn burner match. I think it's going to be at least 4 stars. I think that these are two wrestlers that people enjoy watching because they put on top quality matches. And I'm sorry, I'm just being like a big doll. Oh, this is a good thing. But I think this is going to be a great match, and so I'm going to say Cesaro is probably going over in this match.
Well, 6.5 stars in the Tokyo Dome, but
Yes.
but
Thank you, Dave.
no problem. I think Mr. WrestleMania walks away with the win, and this is the type of match that I could totally see them redoing on SmackDown on Friday, and Cesaro winning and just re-picking up, that steam going forward. I don't know why. I think like I could totally see that happening. But I will say I think Seth Rollins is the nuts. He's one of the most highly protected wrestlers that they've had. He's been better protected than Roman Reigns. He truly has. I mean, he before last year he had won at every single WrestleMania he participated in. Every single one he won a match. The only loss he had suffered before Owens last year, which by the way, Owens Rollins last year stole night one for me. It was awesome. I loved that match. And he only lost to Randy Orton, which he won the title that night. I think if there's a guy, I think Seth Rollins can be Mr. WrestleMania, like going forward. He is for me right now. And like I said, I could see Seth losing. He could go back to be a sniveling heel, but Seth Rollins ain't losing again at Mania. This is his pain. Like he said on that promo on down last week, where he was like, "Think about all the great WrestleMania." He said, "Right next to the superstars colliding, you had the high century," and he was like next to these superstars, you have Seth Rollins defeating H, like all this, like all that stuff, and I was like, "Dog, you're not wrong. Like, let's go, Seth." So I'm a huge fan of heel Seth, so I'm gonna take him here.
Next match on the card here is the women's tag team turmoil match, which is Lana versus Naomi,
match of the night.
Dana Brooke, Mandy Rhodes, Riot Squad, and Italian Tamina. Let's just get past this match.
No, I want to make a prediction. I think it's going to be. I don't know why. I think it's going to be. Shit. I think it's going to be Lana and Carmella for some reason, or not Carmella. Naomi.
Okay.
Unless we get the Carmella Billy Kay thing, which by the way, MVP of the year is Billy Kay with her resume and like going around and trying to get everybody to like BT her. I fucking love Billy Kay like with all my heart. I'll take a Naomi and Lana. It seems like they've gotten the most heat out of these teams.
Yeah. Okay, so
maybe Dana and Mandy.
You're going with Lana and Naomi.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to take your thoughts, though. I'm going to take Billy Kay and Carmella, mainly because Billy Kay has reminded me of what my 2020 was like, going around unemployed, trying to pass around to people. So that's my opinion. So I was like, I relate to Billy Kay right now. I was like,
here's my headshot.
Yeah.
And here's my resume.
Exactly. So that's
she's
been
so cute. I fucking love her.
All right. And the main event of WrestleMania night 1 is Bobby Lashley. Maybe. Allegedly. Could be.
Maybe Bianca and Sasha.
Oh, is that in consideration? I didn't know that.
I think so. I think what I thought I had seen, but I haven't looked at any rumors because I try to stay spoilery around WrestleMania,
All right. Hey, if it's Sasha and Bianca, I kind of think that might be more. I'm actually more for that than I am this one. I like this main event, but I think.
Oh, Sasha, this main event! I love both wrestlers. I love that they're gonna have, but I want to you finish up with what the match is before we continue. I can't over that.
Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. And let me say this too. I love that Bobby Lashley finally has the WWE title. I don't know like the way he's won it or how he's processed into the WWE Championship is the way I would have done it. But he is kind of like what we talked about with Batista, with being the last big bodybuilder guy to win that title. I think Bobby kind of just comes across as one of those guys that like is a dominant force that can hold that title. And at the start, when he first debuted in WWE, I mean, I didn't know if I saw him in that light, but he's really grown over the last like 10 years, gone to TNA, done his thing there, came back and stuff that I'm like, okay, actually, that's WWE champion. McIntyre, he's been a great champion too. I think his gimmick kind of grew old over the pandemic. But I mean, single-handedly, I would say also McIntyre kind of helped carry WWE through the pandemic in a way as their champion too. So I'm excited for this match. As far as the outcome, I kind of feel like they're going leaning towards putting the title back on Drew. So that's my pick. Is probably they're going to go with Drew McIntyre.
I think that I don't know if they meant to do it on purpose. I think they were just trying to make the moment special for Bobby. I think they inadvertently backed themselves into a corner with Bobby because they've tried to make him a heel ever since he won. But when you put forth that I've been doing this for 15 years, Miz kept trying to take my opportunity. We had an agreement. He goes in, Miz is a heel, and he absolutely destroys him. He looks like $1,000,000. He comes out in that suit. They do the brand new Almighty thing with the gold light video package before his music hits, which is stupid dope. Like,
it is.
Everything they've done, they've made Bobby Lashley too cool. And I will say this. I thought Drew McIntyre was a great heel. Thought the Scottish psychopath stuff worked. I think it is very hard for wrestling to have faces or baby faces that you root for. And I think Drew McIntyre genuinely got over with me as a good guy. And it's hard because I usually only heel because they're more entertaining. They're more fun to watch. Good guys are usually just plucky G-shucks, like, you're a loser, like, get out of here. I don't think Drew's things run stale. Personally, I think it's the way, like, ever since they booked that third Randy Drew match, it was just, I think it's kind of ill for Drew since then. I'm a big Drew McIntyre fan. He has won for multiple times. I'd love to see him continue to be one of the top 3 guys in the company like he's been, or top 5. I just don't think it's Bobby's time to lose, and I think that Bobby will, because of how I think Bobby will keep it. Now, maybe there's some shenanigans. Maybe there's something that'll keep that from happening. But I just think that it's so fresh and everybody into Bobby. I'm gonna take Bobby Lashley.
Let's move on to night 2. So night 2, we're starting with there's a few less matches on this card, which I'm actually cool with because hopefully they get a little more time. But the first match is Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. And I'm pumped for this match. Like, we've talked a little bit about tonight about how women's wrestling's changed a lot. And I feel like these are 2 of the best women in the business right now. Asuka is her character has been a little interesting the last couple of years. But Rhea Ripley, man, has been a character I've really enjoyed the last couple of years in NXT. She kind of reminds me of a female Edge in some regards. And, I don't know if she's going to win. I don't actually. So Asuka's probably my pick over this, but I do enjoy the Rhea Ripley character. And I think later this year, she's going to get a women's title run, but Asuka is going over at WrestleMania.
I have not liked their debut of Rhea Ripley since she got called up weeks ago. It was really quick. It was shot because Charlotte was supposed to be the person. I think what was supposed to happen was Charlotte beat Asuka, and then Ripley was going to debut the next night and challenge it. I think that's probably the direction they were going to go in. But now, like, Ripley's a heel, and I really liked Ripley like a good guy, like a good girl, like so that's kind of bummed me out. Just because I liked Rhea NXT, and she was one of those few good guys you actually want to root for because they're badass. I'm gonna take Ripley in this match. I think she's gonna fight off. I thought they let Shayna Baszler get way too much offense on her on Raw, but I guess that's neither here nor there. I love Asuka. I'm probably one of my favorite women wrestlers ever. But I think that Asuka is going to do the job. I think Ripley's going to go over. They're going to establish a new star, and Ripley will be holding the belt at the end of the match.
Okay. The next match that's on here is another women's match. It's Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, women's titles, versus the winner of the Gauntlet match or the Turmoil match. I said, who did I say? Oh, Carmella and Billie Kay. And
even though they're not even a fit in the match, yes,
they'll probably be in it.
They'll probably be in.
And I forgot who.
Lana and Naomi.
So what's your thoughts on this match?
The only other one I could see it being maybe Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, the two hot blondes, coming in and doing it. I think Lana makes it more interesting in terms of they've already built that Lana storyline up for a long time of like going through the table, how she went through the table like 7 or 9 weeks in a row, where Nia Jax had put Lana through the announcer's table, and they had that big feud. The only way, because they usually like to do title changes like this at Mania, Baszler and Nia have been the women's tag team division straight up. They could separate them if they want to. Could be the reason why they break up. Shane has not been happy that Reginald's been a part of the group and Nia's been out them, and honestly, they've done a really good job of investing me into Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They've done a great job because they're on TV all the time. They're on every show with every person. And it's like, how are you all everywhere? I don't know. I'm gonna go with Jackson Baszler. They put in so much work. They've done so much. I almost think they deserve to just retain at the. What say you?
I'm the same way. It's hard for me, and maybe this is the women's tag team division in some regards, that I don't see anyone that's like in that realm that's like, oh, that they can knock this team off. And I think they're going to keep this going for a little bit longer. The breakup is obviously happening because of the original feud. I think that's probably coming at SummerSlam. But I think they're going to maintain at WrestleMania, and then the summer will be the breakup of Baszler and Jax. All right, well, let's go into the next match here. And the next match on the card is Riddle, not Matt Riddle, just Riddle versus Sheamus. Battle of the last names for the WWE United States Championship. So what's your thoughts on this match? What's your thoughts on Mr. Razor Matt Riddle riding around like he's middle school Dan Pauly versus Sheamus?
You mean the ultimate bro? Love Riddle. I love him. He's always smiling. He's always having a good time. He's badass. He's always making jokes. He's always trying to help out his fellow wrestlers backstage. Like when MVP said something, he said, "I'm not your bro," and he went, "Oh," and he made Matt MVP actually laugh during a tape segment. Like I love everything about Riddle. I think one of the best things going on Raw. One of the things that I enjoy watching on Raw. I'm all in on Riddle. I think. By the way, what was Sheamus's first name? I don't even know.
Well, it was Sheamus O'Shawney was his FCW name, I think it was. Nerd. But
okay.
Yeah.
Nerd. Okay, well, I'm Riddle just because I could see him giving the belt a veteran like Sheamus, but I think Sheamus is one of those guys that'll like, do the job. So I'm going Riddle. How you feel about him? I think he's awesome.
I like Riddle a lot. I've followed Matthew Riddle for years on the indie circuit, but I've not cared much for the Raw character of Riddle. I don't even know if I like Riddle in the WWE too much. I think he'd be like, he's one of those guys, like if he went to AEW tomorrow, I think he would be a better fit in their system compared to WWE. I'm happy he's a champion in WWE right now. So in this match particularly, I know you picked Riddle. I don't know. I'm picking Sheamus. I think Sheamus is probably someone they're gonna put the title back on. I like Sheamus too. Like I think Sheamus's character, the way he's kind of built himself up, I want to see Sheamus with more title runs. I think he is someone that can be kind of a big brute. And you're making a face.
Dan. Sheamus needs more title runs. He didn't need the ones he got in the first place, Dan. The last relevant thing Sheamus ever needed to do was put Roman Reigns over in 2015. Like, we don't. No, I'm stopping you there. Sheamus is a good hand. He's good to do certain feuds. He's good to be like the end boss for a young mid Carter. Like, it's a good role for old Shamo. But no, we don't need more title runs from Sheamus.
All right, next match here is Kevin Owens. Next match here is Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. And I know you mentioned just earlier in the show that you're not the biggest Kevin Owens fan. I actually am a fan of both these guys. I mean, they've been wrestling for years and years and years. You talked about how you saw Ring of Honor earlier. Surely you had to watch Kevin Steen versus El Generico.
It was past that.
Damn it. Okay, well,
watching. Yeah, I know. I mean, I know about them. I know about like their classic matches there. But unfortunately, when I started watching Ring of Honor, it was like Jay Lethal's like first run as like champion. Really, yeah. Like it was kind of like around that time and stuff.
Okay,
but yeah, you're saying you like both those guys and they're both there. I'm not saying Kevin Owens is bad by any means. I will say this: that the feud between these guys is so wrestle-dary, like legendary in wrestling circles of where they've been, but over 10 years, over 15 years of hitting the road together and being buddies and whatnot. Like, this is the most anti-version feud where they've had blood feud, like their T-feud. It was, we've done everything together, and Kevin Owens was like, I don't care about you. I care about that NXT championship. And it broke Sammy's heart, and that was a great feud.
So good.
This one felt like it was thrown together in like a week. You know what I mean? It was just like, all right, here's Paul, here's Kevin Owens, here's Sami Zayn, wrestle. And so it even though this is a moment, it doesn't really fit their long-term history of their feud. I'll say this: Sami is better than he's ever been. Wow.
I agree.
Promo that he cut with Logan Paul in the ring, he's like, I'm so excited, and Logan watched it. He was like, Logan, you're making it bad. You're my guest of honor, not Kevin Owens. And he was like freaking out. This paranoid, psychotic, like delusioned Sami Zayn, I have been getting more and more of a kick out of the more the months have gone on. And he, the other night on SmackDown, just like his apex. I was head over heels for it.
I'd agree. This character of Sami Zayn, the kind of more conspiracy theory one, has been a little more fun than what we've seen with Sami Zayn the last couple of years. He's like, yeah, I'm a wrestler. I'm a great wrestler, and I want to be the best wrestler ever. And I kind of like that they've given a little more substance to his character the last couple of years. I kind of like heel Owens versus face Sammy a little bit better, but
of course, that's where the money is.
Yeah, but I'm all with this feud. So my pick though for this match is probably, I'm gonna go with Sammy over Owens. I think
I almost feel like he deserves it for how much work he's put in this character and with this storyline for the months and months and months. I almost feel like that would be a good little swerve. I'll take, I don't know what Logan Paul's going to do to interject. I don't know if he'll interject on whose behalf. I could see that screwing Owens over for Sammy to get the win. But I'm going to play it like the safe little mark I am, and I'm going to say that Kevin Owens wins.
Yeah. WrestleMania is one of those weird pay-per-views where you feel like all the faces should go over. And I know that's a terrible concept to be in. And I'm he's like, oh
no.
Yeah. Oh, wait. What's that?
I'm trying to see how many faces I put over. I've been pretty balanced for the most part.
I've been trying to be too. Yeah. And that's the thing, like WrestleMania feel like, it's gonna for the most part end on with a face going over. Like, but this match I could see this going either way, but I have Sammy, so you've got Kevin. The next match is Big E versus Apollo. For the Intercontinental title. Apollo. What's his Nigerian?
What have you thought about his Nigerian freaking like turn on that Intercontinental touch Nigerian drum match where you beat the other opponent, but like a drum or something like that?
What the hell is a Nigerian drum match? It's like, I don't know. Like
the way he explained it, it sounded like he just beat you up so bad. Like, you know how that term, like, oh, they beat a drum. I think that was kind of what I'm trying to insinuate. I think that this character art change, how quickly it was fucking wild. The Apollo Crews, and I was listening to this one wrestling podcast. They were like, you can do accent, spear, you can do soldier bodyguards, but you can't do all three at the same time in 1 week. And it's utterly ridiculous, but almost in like, this is so ridiculous I can't stop watching. What do you think of the Up Cruz character? It's taken away from Big E. I don't even give a shit. I love Big E and love solo Big E. I don't even care about Big E anymore because this Apollo thing is like I don't know. It's like a fire ablaze. You stop looking at it.
I mean, it's kind of cool because like I've liked Apollo Crews the last couple of years, but I feel like there's not been much to him. He's kind of been like kind of Shelton Benjamin-esque to me, I guess, in one way. Is like awesome athlete, not a whole lot of character to him.
No character.
Yeah. And now this is something that he can grab onto. And, you know, he's won the United States title last year. So I'm like, maybe they're finally pushing him a little bit more than usual. Again, I don't think he's a main eventer like Cesaro or like kind of like Cesaro. I don't think he's a main eventer, but I think he is going to go over. I think he's going to win the title. And I think that's good enough for him. And maybe they just put the title on him for a little bit. And then in a few months, they put the title back on Big E. But the way things have kind of been going, I'm picking Apollo over Big E, and then Big E wins it back in a few weeks.
So they've done a lot with Apollo, starting back to Raw with the Hurt Business stuff, where he was the United States champion, and then MVP won it, established the new United States Championship belt. He was a main fixture.
Freaking dope.
And that was, it feels like forever ago, but this is all within the last WrestleMania calendar year that he did that. He came back on SmackDown and aligned with like Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns that 1 week where he was like back in Reigns' office with Paul, like, and Roman Reigns was talking to Apollo and Apollo was like very focused. And then they abandoned that after a week and went into this thing with Big E and then threw him in this Nigerian character. I think it's going to be weird to see Big lose at WrestleMania as a singles for how much they're pushing him. I think that this could be a sympathy play, like that, oh, Apollo really like was cheated as much as he could to win the match, maybe to make Big E look good. But at the end, I think that Apollo Crews wins, but I also think it's a situation where Big E could be the first competitor, the winner of the SmackDown WrestleMania main event of the championship match between, obviously we'll get to in a little bit, because you kind of need, you know, if it's going to be a heel, you're going to need a face, you know, to be their first opponent. He's arguably the you know, behind Daniel Bryan, the top face on SmackDown right now, unless I'm forgetting anybody.
So do you see Big E kind of being like, I'm not going to say win the WWE or Universal title this year, but like kind of like one of those guys that's going to main event a Big Four pay-per-view later this year because of just his popularity?
I could see him possibly. I don't know. No, if you want a straight answer, no, because that means you'd have to main event SummerSlam. Don't think he's doing that. To main event Survivor Series and outside of the 5-man match, like, you know, I don't see him facing Raw's champion or whatever. That Royal Rumble would be the one place, like before the Royal Rumble, if you count that as a main event spot. And then like if he was winning WrestleMania next year, I think a lot would have to break for him for that to happen. However, I do think he'll main event more than one WWE pay-per-view this year that's not a big four. And I think he will be on and off in that Universal title picture for a decent amount of year. Because if not, then why did you break up the New Day in the first place if one of those guys wasn't going to go on to the better things? And it seems Big E is that guy.
Absolutely. So, okay, good to know. So we got that match. And then we're moving on to the second to main event here. Semi main event match, I guess you would say, is The Fiend versus Randy Orton, which is the second time they've wrestled at WrestleMania. Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the Fiend versus Randy Orton has been a little more polarized in the wrestling world as far as the build up to it. Let me get your thoughts on the Fiend versus Randy Orton rivalry over the last year here as things have kind of gone.
It's been complicated. Like I thought sneakily their story from and leading up to WrestleMania 33 when Randy Orton infiltrated the Wyatt family, like quote unquote, was one of the most well-told stories WWE has executed since I've become became a fan back around WrestleMania 30, because that whole story, it was Bray Wyatt, like Randy Orton was like, if I can't beat him, I'll join him, and Luke Harper was like, he's going to turn on us, he is, and Bray was kind of like, he might, Luke, but if he doesn't, this makes us stronger than we ever could have dreamed of being. And Randy Orton helped fulfill prophecy to Bray to the point that Bray ended up trusting him, just between Luke Harper, and does it from the inside. It almost made Bray look like the face at the end because everybody was excited to Bray the title. Randy burned down his complex, and it was like he was crying. It was like, dude, that's sad. It's like dead is like buried in there or whatever. But you have to remember from the beginning, Bray abused Randy into having to do that, and we all know that Randy Orton is the most sadistic and sick heel to ever exist, and I use that in the best way possible. It's hard that anything would beat that storyline. It's almost been as much of a storyline between like Randy and Alexa, because Fiend's been off TV since TLC, and I think they've done with what they've been given, they've done as well as they can. I mean, how many times has Alexa and Randy closed Raw? Like, they've closed a ton of Raws. And the feud itself has been a little empty because, like, what is it? Oh, you killed him. Alexa said he's not dead. She'll come back, and he's back. Like, okay. Like, that's fine. Whatever you had to do to get from point A to point B. So it hasn't been as intricately involved as the first one. I do think there's something going there at the beginning when Randy was messing with Alexa and the Fiend was like cared about Alexa. I think they could have pit that against him. There was one thing that Randy said at the very beginning of their feud was something like, I know your weakness, or something, where they said that I'm going to use something against you. I really need I can see it, but it was actually referred to Alexa turning on Bray, because he held her in her arms and Bray was like, I want you, and he was like, I thought it meant like, because Bray brushed Alexa, Randy was going to like save Alexa. Obviously that's not going to happen. They abandoned that. So yeah, I can see why it's polarizing. It's gone into places. Fiend's been off TV. It's been a lot of Alexa Randy stuff. I think Randy's been awesome this feud. He's been Randy the top wrestler for me for 2020. I thought he was the best wrestler in the world. I've
seen you tweet about that too. Yeah,
I think he has hit his absolute. Yeah, I think he's at his absolute apex. Like, I think that like this guy is doing God's work out here. If this match is a cinematic match like they did the Cena Fiend match, I think this will be the best match of the weekend, period. If they do it cinematic stuff, because I think these two characters are so intrinsically connected through two different storylines, and they all, under this Fiend character, connected it as one. I think that it will be the most intriguing and most riveting match of the weekend. If it's a regular in the ring match, like they'll do to make it entertaining. I just don't feel the same about it. But either way, unless it's that 1% Alexa turns on the Fiend and goes Wendy, which would not make sense at all. I think the Fiend is going to win, and he's kind of avenging these old WrestleMania losses that he had. And this is the next one. He avenged the Cena one. He's going to avenge the Randy.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I feel like the way it's been built up, like it's one of those things like that we could see the Fiend win. And I've kind of, I didn't do this intentionally, but I've had a lot of heels win in my little pickups here. But I feel like the Fiend match, that one, I know, right? It's like, I feel like the Fiend match is one of those matches like, okay, this kind of makes sense for it to be a win for him, especially because he had a loss and he had a loss in a very bad WrestleMania match a few years ago.
And damn, he got set on fire. He's, I don't know if people realize this. Fiend is not like some supernatural character. The Fiend is just like Bray Wyatt's version, only unhinged. He set a man on fire. I mean, it should have killed him. I don't know how he's still alive. So it would seem like that the guy that died due to being set on fire should probably get his comeuppance.
Right, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's like the Undertaker, and actually against Randy Orton. Randy Orton set him on fire, and then what happened? Undertaker went over. So same concept.
Hey, how about that?
The next match on the card here is the main event is Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan. I feel like there's a lot to unpack with this match. And well, there's a lot of feelings in this match. And I kind of get it. Edge retired 9 years ago. When he was at the pinnacle of his career, he was a world champion. Daniel Bryan had to retire because of neck injury or concussion injury. And then they both come back. And then you got Roman, who I think one of my personal beliefs with WWE right now, the heel Roman is one of the best characters on wrestling right now. And this is kind of like a very interesting WrestleMania match because I don't know who I want more. I like heel Roman. I kind of like the redemption story of Edge because I remember when Edge retired and I was like, oh, that kind of sucks for him. I also remember when Daniel Bryan retired. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks for him. And now both these guys are back. I don't know how I should feel about this match or who I should pick. I feel like they're going to lean towards Daniel Bryan as kind of the good feeling moment towards at the end of WrestleMania. I feel like Daniel Bryan's probably going to walk away with the title, which I don't think is the right call. I think Roman should keep the ring going, but yeah, this match is weird to me in a lot of different ways. So what's your thoughts on it?
I think that the under talked about part of this is like, is this Daniel Bryan's last match? Because out of nowhere, they have kind of, or Daniel Bryan, Mike, all of a sudden, it was like a month ago, this could be my last WrestleMania. This might be my last WrestleMania. Like, when was this talked about, Daniel? Like, no, I don't remember him mentioning that. I don't remember that being a thing. I wonder if there's a part of Daniel Bryan that went up to them and was like, this is my last Mania. Like, this is the last time I'm wrestling is at WrestleMania. Like, I could come back. Maybe the doctors are saying, like, dude, it's getting worse. Maybe he's like, I came back, I did it, it's over. You know, I want to do behind the scenes. I want to be with my wife and kids because now he has a second kid. Maybe that changed his outlook on life. Mm-hmm. This could possibly for Daniel like an Austin 19 where he loses. That's it. Like, that's just literally it. And that's something I don't think people thought about. Why else does he keep saying that this might be his last WrestleMania? I don't understand that. So with Bryan, if he won, it would be just that the people's champion, the wrestler's champion, he's going to give us the best string of matches if he wins. I think he is the most unlikely winner of the three. I almost feel like he is in this match to get pinned, and this is his last like match, or why he keeps putting out this wrestling stuff. It also doesn't make sense as well because isn't that inherently the storyline after WrestleMania somehow get Edge and Daniel Bryan in a career versus career type of thing?
Mhm.
How they're not career versus career match, but how they're so similar, but they want to wrestle a dream match and all this like that kind of went away pretty quickly. And again, it's very very confusing on why all this is Daniel Bryan got thrown into it in the first place. Because this match almost felt more like at first when it was Roman Edge, I was like, whatever. But I was like, Roman Edge feels big, and Roman's the heel, Edge is the face. Well, now Edge is the heel, and Roman's a heel, and Roman's the only face. But they haven't kind of built him up necessarily the right way. It's a clusterfuck in my opinion. Like when it comes to this match, when you said there are a lot of feelings to it, like for an example with Edge, I think WrestleMania that Sunday is 10 years to the day that he retired. I think that WrestleMania is a full decade to the day. I could be mistaken, okay, and if I'm mistaken, they can find you where to tweet us at. If is it F
Uh,
at
uh,
FITC podcast?
yeah, that's right. FITC podcast or Angelo Media Lex.
Yep. If you're here with us this long, you're a true wrestling fan and you know the answer to that. So you come and tell me exactly what the day. Um, it's for Edge. It's like his story was supposed to be the cool one, and he's like arguably the least interesting of the three now. And he had to turn heel to get some of that back. It had to be, this is my opportunity. I lasted, and he just sounds like you look old, you sound bitter. Like you're supposed to be the good guy, and now you're. Oh, Daniel Bryan's taking this opportunity away from me. It's like, well, no shit, Edge. Like, his shit got taken away too. And Edge, big old baby, almost aligned with Roman about it. And then Roman Reigns, who you said like you think he's one of the best characters. My other kind of hot take is like I always wanted Roman to be a heel, but not this heel. And I know that sounds very picky and very like I get my way. I didn't get the heel turn I wanted. But I wanted Roman to be like that late 90s early 2000s like Triple H heel where he was just a fucking bastard all of the time, and he was a bad guy, and he did bad things, and he was despicable. Like I wanted there to be some like guile to this Roman where he was like, please Roman, don't drive the family off the cliff, like you're better than this Roman, like some sadistic guy. But instead he's just, I provide for my family to eat food, and I'm the best in the family, and I'm the head of the table. And, some of the I can do whatever I want in WWE because I'm Roman Reigns. I do think that part's cool, but he's not like a dastardly bad guy. He's just a champion with a attitude problem, like a better than you complex. Like I wanted to see him be a bad guy. I think if everything were to go cleanly, I think we are going to see Edge hold the title at the end of the night. That's who I think
Really?
is going to win, not who I want to win. I don't think they brought Edge back, made him win the Royal Rumble, and put him in this position. It's been 2 years. I mean, they had the Randy Orton lead up. They go to WrestleMania, okay, and then they have that best match ever or whatever. And God, do I have my WrestleManias off? No, I don't. I'm still on the right path. Yeah, so then he gets hurt. So it's like your first match back, you don't win the title. You win against Orton. Your next spot is winning the title. And they could have diverted plans, but if Edge loses this WrestleMania, where does he go? He's just gonna be an angry bad guy to put over some young guys. And I don't think Edge came back to be Christian. You know what I mean? Edge came back to be Edge. And I think that this was always meant for him to happen. Now, here is the only little twist I'm going to give in this. Do I think it'll happen? No. Is it something that I fantasy booked? Yes. Does that mean it's going to happen? Absolutely not. I thought it was really weird that Roman and Goldberg didn't fight. after planning that match, after getting after they planned it for WrestleMania, COVID hit, Roman backed out, Goldberg fought Braun. Goldberg didn't fight Roman at the Royal Rumble. He fought Drew McIntyre. I thought that was weird. I thought this was always kind of built. Vince wanted Roman Goldberg at some point. And apparently maybe Roman said he didn't want to fight Goldberg or whatever. But Goldberg lost to Drew. Can't really go back that route. I thought there was just something the other night where we have like spear versus spear with Edge and Roman, and they kind of ditched that, and it was always going to be the Roman Goldberg spear versus spear. I could see Roman, about to win. The other two guys are down. Goldberg spears Roman. It keeps Roman strong. Edge pins Roman. He wins the title. But it's all very convoluted. I'm just trying to think. Doesn't there have to be like some type of swerve in this match, because it's so convoluted at this point. I don't know if it's Daniel Bryan's last match. I don't know why Roman would lose. Is Daniel just there to take the pin? I think that Edge will pin Daniel Bryan for the championship, and that way I think Edge closes WrestleMania as your Universal Champion. But I don't know. But this is the match that should main event the night 2 of WrestleMania. This should be the last match of WrestleMania weekend.
Amen. I agree with that, especially with the two wrestlers that are involved with kind of their stories, and then Roman. And my belief is, if there's someone that's supposed to go over, it's probably Roman. If it is, we'll see what happens, just for the future aspect of the business. But this is probably the most interesting match of the entire card. So, with everything that's going on, so we will see what happens here at WrestleMania, but I'm excited.
I am too. I mean, it's hard not to be for WrestleMania. No, it's just after all of that, it's just we will see. It's we will see. We will see on Saturday and Sunday. I agree. I think it's that. I think there are a couple interesting ones. I'm actually into the Fiend Orton thing. I'm into McIntyre, Lashley, obviously the Raw stuff, because I'm like one of 2 remaining fans of Raw. I think Raw gets shit on way too much, considering that I remember people used to hate on Raw because Kevin Owens and Finn Balor would have like 30-minute matches. It's like, if this was on AEW, you all would lose your collective minds.
Yeah.
But like every week we would get something like that to start off a Raw. It'd be like, all right, I guess it's going to be Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins. And people would be like, oh, brother, these guys stink. But if they were in AEW, it would be like, did you all see that all-time classic Rollins Zayn match? I've always been critical of people that are critical of Raw, because like I can see through that. But regardless, I'm excited for Raw matches. I think that the card overall is just going to generally be fun. And if I had to give an out of 10, my excitement for this WrestleMania is at about a 7.5. Like I'm not like, it's not like I've been being like weeks and weeks of being like, oh my gosh, this WrestleMania, why isn't it Sunday? But it's something that I'm still going to watch, and I still think there are matches on the card. I think that we're still getting used to the 2-night thing. And but I do think there are matches with league, and we've seen a lot of these stars over the weeks. I think it'll be fun. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10 on the excitement scale.
I'm kind of in that same boat here. Is this the best card for WrestleMania I've ever seen? No, but I think it's going to be fun. WrestleMania always delivers as a great pay-per-view for the most part. And there's a lot of good matches on here. I think Cesaro versus Rollins is going to be
Seth and Cesaro, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's going to steal the entire weekend. And I'm really excited about that. So we'll see what happens with this whole weekend here.
That's okay. So that's your show of the weekend. So your match of the weekend, even over the main event, it's going to be Seth and Cesaro, just in terms of like highest star rating.
Absolutely,
just in that sense.
By Meltzer standards,
okay,
yes.
I'm going by Meltzer standards. I'm going to say the match of the weekend. I already said I think it's going to be Orton Fiend. Like if they do it cinematic style. If not, I think it'll be the triple threat between Bryan, Edge, and Roman. I guess they're the least excited I am. There are a couple matches though that I really don't care about. I think Ripley Asuka will be good, but I don't care about it. Like it's been so the women's tag team stuff. Like I will be more interested on night 2 with Shayna and Nia, but that night 1 turmoil, unless Billy Kay something adorably funny, like I have no interest in that. I Sheamus Riddle, unless Riddle's doing something super funny, I don't need a 15-minute match out of those two. I just don't. Like quick, easy to the point will do for that match. And I think it's almost like what's not there, even though they put so many people on there, there are not a lot of tag team matches. Like the Raw tag team match doesn't even feel like a tag team match, with Styles and Omos. It almost feels like there are 2 singles people against this tag team. There's no Baron Corbin, which is fine. He's been, a big fixture. There's no Street Profits, no Mysterio and Dominic on the show. There's a couple pieces missing, but overall I think 7.5, quite does it for me.
It's respectable, and I'm kind of that same boat too. So it's good to hear, man. So we'll have to see.
Well, that's I guess in a podcast that was longer than WrestleMania itself. I'm glad that everybody stuck with. If you're having fun, if you're a wrestling fan and you had fun, like you got to give us a follow at FITC podcast at Angelo Media Lex, and you've got to listen to the NFL draft show that we're doing in a couple weeks, which will be much shorter than this one, we promise, but we're going to talk NFL draft the week of draft, which is April 29th. So we'll probably do something, that Monday or whatever and get it out like what, Paul or Dan, like Wednesday or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get out
something like that. Just something for the people.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be much shorter.
That was fun. It will be shorter, and if Vince McMahon had the choice, he would have added on 3 more hours to this podcast. So thank us that we are Vince McMahon.
So we've hollered at it a few times, but Angela, just so we finish this up the way it should be, where can my listeners hear you at, and where can they follow you at?
They can hear me on ESPN Sports Radio 1300 AM, 92.5 FM. If you're in the Lexington area, but if you're not and you want to listen, you can go to WLXG.com. That's WLXG.com. Sunday mornings from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And if you missed the show, I've got my own profile on there that you can go and listen to the recording of the show, kind of like a podcast. It's no commercials, all content. So you can check that out on WLXG.com. And if you want to keep up with what I'm doing in that realm and anywhere else, find me doing guest appearances on great podcasts such as your own. You can follow me at Angelo Media Lex on Twitter.
Awesome. Angelo, thank you so much for coming on for like 2 hours. God help us. The show will not be posted for 2 hours. I promise you. There's going to be some editing done, but we've got an awesome episode for WrestleMania preview coming up. We'll have Angelo on here in a few weeks to talk about the NFL draft, and we'll talk about what happened last year with Joe Burrow, and we'll talk about this upcoming draft. But we just want to say thank you so much for listening to the show so far, and we hope to see you guys again soon. Angelo, we hope to have you get on beyond just the upcoming episodes again soon. So thank you, sir, for all you do.
I'm on anytime you want me, man. I'll come on anytime.